Hello, welcome back to the L1 show. Today is August 18th, and we're doing robot and nonsense stories for your Friday.
And you're going to want to, if you host websites, you're going to want to dust off the old connections, get in there and change the robots.txt.
Oh,
And if you believe that that will stop them, I have a bridge that is available for purchase for a low, low price.
OpenAI launches a web crawling GPT-bot, sparking blocking effort by website owners and creators. Or it's already been crawling for a long time.
I mean, it's a nice idea, but realistically, will they honor that? Especially if a lot of websites start blocking them.
They say they will.
They'll crawl it at archive.org.
They also say that you can block the IP address, which there's no way there's one IP address. There's going to have to be a huge block, and I don't know if they've announced that or whatever, but you're going to have a hard time keeping this particular spider out of your stuff, and it's going to be looking at all of it.
Every time I go through these folders, I just keep finding these little spiders everywhere.
And I have a feeling that they sort of astroturfed because all the big tech sites ran this headline.
Now you can block OpenAI's web crawler. This is the Verge version.
I don't know why you guys are freaking out. They wouldn't just steal from you.
That's so weird.
Web pages crawled with GPT-bot user agent may potentially be used to improve future models. May.
Absolutely will be.
And Zoom, wow, they made their fortune by working from home. And now, amazingly, they've decided they don't like that anymore.
Zoom contradicts its own policy about training AI on your data.
Wow, that is not what the story was about. I read that was the other story.
Yeah.
This is about their terms of service, which says that they get perpetual, worldwide, non-exclusive, royalty-free, how many commas are in this sentence?
Sub-licensable.
And all other rights, the use of customer content for machine learning and artificial intelligence, training and testing.
Man.
Now, originally, there was no opt-out. You have to do this if you use Zoom. There was a major backlash, as you can imagine, when people discovered this. So now you can opt out if you host the Zoom. If someone else hosts the Zoom and they opt in and you join the Zoom, you opt in by default.
Ugh.
Fun times.
So when you get a Zoom link, just expect that Zoom link, because especially if it's made by a normie, it's probably checked by default, right? Then they are opting you in to be AI training data while you go to the Wednesday meeting.
That's why you got to be a little bit weird in the meeting so that you mess up the data.
The other story about going back to the office, which I think I cut, remember Zoom announced no meeting Wednesdays? That's not a thing anymore. We're going back to having meetings on Wednesdays.
There is no escape.
And boy, am I feeling this. The Captchas are no longer any use whatsoever.
Bots are better than humans at cracking "Are you a robot?" Captcha tests, the study finds. Yes, the spammers figured that out about 6 months ago.
And it's so frustrating when clients are like, I'd love to have a form on my website. And I'm like, please no.
You don't want that.
Please no. And they're like, but isn't that good? And I'm like, it used to be. And now it's just going to be full of spam because no matter what I do, a bot's going to be able to get through it.
And they are getting through. And Amazon has been known to print books on demand, and some of those books may be pirated copies. The author might not be getting anything from that.
Or AI generated.
Well, yeah, when AI came around, they took it to the next level, which is some of these books are completely no human involved at all. It's all automated, and they were kind of okay with it until, of course, someone famous on Twitter got it changed.
Amazon reverses course on garbage books, quote unquote, after public uproar. Amazon removed several books believed to be written by AI and listed under the real author's name. Why? Because the author hadn't trademarked their name. Because
that was literally what they said. They're like,
so obvious.
You didn't trademark it. So
and before the Twitter outrage, they were like, well, you didn't trademark it, so we're going to keep selling them.
And the books were complete, just
who is
word
buying
salad.
them?
Yeah.
Publishing power, navigating Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing. Like that was one of the books. And that's just an AI regurgitating the basic stuff about Kindle. It can't be useful.
That sounds like spam. with more steps.
It is
that
the
you
whole
pay for.
and the whole internet is just going to be full of that. Like it's already a problem, and it's just going to get worse.
And not just the internet, but all of our entertainment as well.
Google and Universal Music discussing making an AI tool to replicate artists' voices. Again, the hand of Disney is behind this to get people riled up so that they'll outlaw AI tools for such things.
But they want to actually pay licensing. So the voice owner, is that what we're going to call him, is going to get, but it's probably going to be almost nothing, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Disney wrote a story about a character who lost her voice and sold it to a sea witch.
Well,
And that character was the antagonist.
They didn't write that story, right? Isn't that a fairy tale? Disney doesn't write anything.
That's true. They did steal that as well.
And they've created a task force to find out how they can steal even more.
Disney creates a task force to explore AI and cut costs, according to sources. Yes. Meanwhile, Disney is trying to prevent individuals from leveraging these tools. You can better believe they are going to leverage these tools to the nth degree behind closed doors, as they have for the better part of a century now.
The Magic Kingdom will be fueled by robot magic from now on.
Did we have any of the stories about Nintendo's crazy patents? Like Nintendo's doing gaming patents now on things like physics.
I don't think so. We have one Nintendo story.
Spacebar for jump patent.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I mean, obviously, they wouldn't use spacebar.
I
But
mean, if Nintendo had patented, Mario jumps, that
jumping as a mechanic, yeah.
The original name of Mario was Jumpman. They could go back and be like, "No, yeah, we own the jump." Well, the fears of AI taking over Hollywood are certainly not unfounded because we see that Disney is investing heavily into it, and they're preparing, not them specifically, but all the big major studios are preparing to not have actors by creating an army of robot actors.
TV and film extras fear generative AI will copy their faces and bodies to take their jobs. Spoiler alert, they don't need to copy their faces and bodies to take their jobs.
They've already actually kind of done this. For House of the Dragon, there was like a behind the scenes featurette. So they were filming during the pandemic. And so what they did is they had like maybe 10 or 15 extras that they had costumes and stuff made for. And then they recorded them on a green screen, each person like doing different things in the scene. And then they composited all of it together. So they saved a lot of money.
That's what they describe here. So they were talking to some of these actors. They pull them into a trailer. They've got a whole big, like green screen and all the big camera grid on it. And they're like, yeah, okay, now put your hands up. Okay, now put your hands out in front, and then, react to this. And the people, they're afraid because they're just extras to say anything. Because if they say anything, there's 100 people behind them.
We'll just do it because they need the money.
Now, those people might have to go back to college and consider a new career, but that will not save them from the AI.
Paper exams and chatbot bans. Colleges seek to ChatGPT-proof assignments.
This is just going to be like the Captcha thing where it's just a constant race.
And they interviewed a student and he was like, yeah, I wrote a paper. I ran it through a ChatGPT detection app and it gave me a score of 22%, and I was too terrified to turn it in, so I rewrote it till I got it below that.
Are you learning anything except for how to game the system at that point? I mean, that's been a problem with education for a long time, but it seems like it's only getting worse.
Well, I mean, that could prepare you for a career in SEO, right?
I guess.
And they're bringing the AI into the supermarket to try and help you out. In this case, they wanted to help you plan your meals with what you have on hand, but they didn't think about people maybe getting weird with it.
The headline, which is horrible, misleading clickbait, is Supermarket AI Meal Planner app suggests recipe that would create chlorine gas.
Still 100% my favorite story of the week.
But this is not unlike the alternative non-AI headline is kitchen appliance would have you eating broken glass if you put a light bulb in a food processor.
Yeah, what happened was, the people, it was like, hey, what do you have in your cupboard? And they were like, chlorine and ammonia.
We'll put those together.
The best part about it, though, is it gave all of those recipes fun names. So it
was aromatic water mix.
Yeah, aromatic water mix was the chlorine gas. Oreo vegetable stir fry. All these just had great. Oh, bleach infused rice surprise.
I wonder what the surprise is.
I think this would have been a far more interesting article if they suggested the ingredients they had was Mentos and Diet Coke,
Yeah.
because then you would have, ruptured your stomach or whatever.
I mean, the point is that it just randomly puts things together. It has no actual creativity.
Well, the signal to noise ratio on how to combine those specific ingredients would have been 0. So it's just like, I don't know.
I just put it together.
But these models aren't complex enough. Like, eventually we will have a model that's complex enough. It's like, I don't really have a lot of recipes that contain bleach, so I'm not really sure how to use it in a recipe. Like, they'll just make that a valid response.
The problem here wasn't that AI was being used. The problem here was that no effort was being applied to using AI. Now let's hope that Anthropic is giving a little bit more effort to the new Claude.
Anthropic launches an improved version of its entry-level large language model, except it's a tiny large language model.
This looks like a clothing store ad.
Is that? I guess that's supposed to be like connected ideas,
I guess,
topics.
I love how fast all this is moving. Like, whenever there's new technology or new stuff that comes out, a new version of this or that, I've never can you recall another time where when some new technology or new software came available that it was adopted by this many people this quickly and created such a diversity of things going on with that thing?
NFTs.
Yeah.
And look where we are with
Internet,
those.
social media. Yeah.
The internet caught on slow.
Yeah, I guess it did take a little longer.
And AI generated art continues to be a huge issue because I think we've kind of decided, like, if you're going to use it, you need to say you're using it, right? But not everybody is.
You also don't get a copyright claim for it.
Wizards of the Coast updating artist guidelines after AI art found in Dungeons and Dragons book.
So they're doing some kind of new giants thing for Dungeons and Dragons. And one of the artists, they ran it through one of those, is this generated by AI things? And it flagged like every pixel. So they asked the person and they were like, oh yeah, I used it to clean up one of my paintings, but it might have been created from whole cloth here. So they're going to take that out. They're going to rework it. And they apologized. Wizards of the Coast are good at the apologies, huh? Because they constantly have to do that.
Their PR department, they got that message. It came across their desk on Monday and they're
Well, just pull out the template.
like, yeah.
And in San Francisco, the war against the robot cars is being waged. And I think this is a big loss for the resistance.
2 rival robotaxi services win approval to operate throughout San Francisco despite safety concerns.
So Waymo and Cruise are both getting a lot of new licenses for running these things. They did have some public comment. A lot of people didn't like it.
But who cares? There's money to be made.
And we got a couple of real robots this week to talk about. This one is somewhat adorable. I feel like they need to put a skin on it though, right?
I mean, he's a little creepy looking, but he's still kind of cute. I see what they're going for.
And movement, it's not quite as bad.
Robotic sea turtle mimics uniquely adaptable gait. So sea turtles are really good on sand and in the sea and swimming, and now we can do it with robots.
What is he going to do exactly? Well, I don't think they had a lot of that in mind. I think they decided
More of an
to do it.
experiment, yeah.
They suggested that maybe this could lead the baby turtles to water.
They're gonna have a robotic hawk come and swoop down on the robotic turtle.
It is crazy if you believe I don't know about these nature documentaries, but isn't there an extreme statistic about how many of those turtles make it to the water?
Yeah.
It's almost none. I don't know what this guy's going to do about it.
Laser defense shocking. It uses a UV laser to ionize the air and send an electric shock through the laser. And the birds are like, what kind of turtles are these?
Wouldn't it be better to have like a robot with like a cat litter scoop on the front of it so we can just go and collect them all?
Yeah. They can have anti-bird spikes on it.
I'll give it a little assault gun with an image model on it. And celebration is in order because we were worried the Mars helicopter had a bit of an issue, but it seems like it's back in action.
Mars helicopter Ingenuity spies Perseverance rover during its 54th Red Planet flight. This flight was a diagnostic flight because its previous flight ended prematurely and operators weren't really sure why.
Honestly, it's a garbage picture. I mean, he's totally out of frame. So they just popped him up for 27 seconds, or 24 seconds, I'm sorry, because they just weren't sure what's going on. They think they've figured out that something about the imaging software is getting out of sync with the the balance software and stuff. And when that happens, there's an emergency land now code that keeps getting triggered. So he safely lands so as not to risk falling. And the sun, it turns out, is blessing us with so much more than we ever thought. And if you've ever been a fan of the Incredible Hulk, just go outside. Just spend a lot of time outside. It should have happened to you eventually.
Gamma ray detection marks the highest energy light from the sun. So we're detecting more gamma rays from the sun than ever before. Bruce Banner will be happy.
10 times more.
The RAM in your computer, however, will not be happy.
How do we know this? It's an amazing way that they do this. It's not a telescope. They have tanks of water that absorb gamma radiation, and they use those as a kind of telescope to determine what kind of light is hitting the Earth. And SpaceX, they are really good at getting up there to space and launching stuff off, but they've got a new ambition.
SpaceX teases another application for Starship. They are, of course, having to rebuild the launch pad.
So they want the Starship to maybe get launched and stay up there as a little space station.
Space Buckies.
And they're saying that the plan is the propellant tanks that will be empty by the time it gets into orbit will be maintained. You won't shed your boosters and everything. You will turn that into habitation.
An inflatable habitation thing where you just, it's like, boop. It's like, oh, look, we were keeping fuel here, but now it's habitable.
It smells a little bit like gas in here. It smells weird.
Don't worry. Well, here's an air freshener.
It's complimentary with your flight. Go get some space jerky from the Space Buckies.
And that's the new school spaceships, but we got some old school spaceships, real old Dino Baby spaceships, and luckily we still can talk to them.
NASA restores contact with Voyager 2 spacecraft after a mistake led to weeks of silence.
I think, did we cover this last week? Is this just an update?
Last week we weren't sure if we were going to be able to get back.
Okay.
But we have now we're back to talking to it.
The interview they had in this article, she was like, oh, she said, my whole body like slumped in my chair when I realized we could talk to it again.
We will lose it eventually, but they're thinking if they can manage the power from that plutonium, we could keep it till 2027. And some of those satellites that have been put up there by the likes of SpaceX, I don't know if they did these specifically, are unfortunately built on a model that did not take those gamma rays and the anger of the sun into account.
Capella's Earth imaging satellites are deorbiting faster than expected.
Some of these were really fast, like year and a half, and then they were already coming down.
This has been updated since I read it to include CEO stuff.
Which
comments.
their comments were basically like, yeah, we're fixing it next time around. We know now because the space weather from the sun up there.
We're in an active solar pattern.
Yeah, it's so crazy that it's like they're flying through soup, I guess, and it drags them down.
Here's hoping we don't experience a Carrington event.
Spaceweather.com.
Well, we do have some more information about one of our satellites, but not those kind, the big kind.
Chandrayaan. Am I saying that right? Historic India moon mission sends new photos of lunar surface.
I would say Chandrayaan. We got any Hindi speakers out there?
That can spell it phonetically for us? Sorry.
We've never seen that part of the moon before.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's embarrassing backside. But now there it is. Looks like the rest
It's
of it.
got a tramp stamp back there.
That would be so good.
What does that say? Is that a butterfly with sparkles?
And Mars, which might be our home after, we can no longer habitate this world because the AI has destroyed it with nuclear fire, has some secrets that we're discovering that we didn't expect.
Mars is spinning faster, and scientists aren't sure why.
They did give a couple ideas in this article.
Its days are growing slightly shorter.
They think that it's getting more ice on the poles, and that's like messing with it as it spins. But it's literally by like a
it's a
teensy
fraction.
second. Yeah.
But think about how destructive that would be because like GPS.
Yeah.
Well, if you're thinking about, doing a little recreational fishing, Florida might be the place to go because you could bring up something that's more of a prize than a sea bass.
Tampa mayor went fishing and caught a 70-pound block of cocaine.
As you do.
That seems like a lot of cocaine. Is that a lifetime supply? What
Do you
is
call
that?
Fish and Wildlife for that?
It's sold by the gram. I think they said it was worth at least $1 million, right?
Is there no X?
I
Do
don't
they
know. Oh, no, it's
want you
over
to
here.
shop? Wow.
Left side X is $1 million worth of cocaine. Now the cops they tend to inflate the street value. That's probably if you literally sell it each gram individually. But interestingly enough, they kept her name off this story until she announced it.
Is that like her trying to show she's hard on drugs? I fished it out of this river and I gave it to the cops.
And if you find some treasure, definitely don't call the authorities.
The Daily Mail headline story is treasure hunter accused the FBI of a major cover-up, claiming agents made off with $500 million in Civil War gold in the middle of the night after he found a long-lost burial site.
This is from the Daily Mail, but
This is a fun read, but this guy got some Freedom of Information documents that are kind of fishy, but the dude himself is also kind of fishy, so I don't know.
So he claims that he did some ground scanning. He never saw the gold. He claims he did ground scanning and he knew that it might be in the area. And
And the
Then-
FBI did some ground scanning, and they said there was a mass down there.
they also identified gold.
And then after the digging, the mass wasn't there.
The next day, they dug it up and they were like, there's nothing here. But he claims that during the night, several people witnessed night digging that was happening. So he believes they came that night, got the gold, because they would have to pay him a finder's fee.
Yeah. The evidence of night digging is scant at best, though.
yeah, I'm surprised. I'm not sure exactly where this was, but like if anything weird happens in my neighborhood, someone immediately takes a picture of it.
Pennsylvania.
But I am completely ready to believe any sort of misconduct by the FBI.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that could happen.
I wonder how do you fence that though? What happens to that gold?
It's going to go straight to the Treasury, and the Treasury will just cut you a check.
Just melt it back down?
Yeah.
No, it goes into a museum.
Fort Knox is
But-
like, all right,
But
props.
we don't know of any museum where this secret gold is. They say it doesn't exist. Chris, I definitely thought about you with this story because you're always talking about your paranoia with people messing with your feet, and
Yeah, I don't like that.
it is a terrifying idea that it would happen.
California man arrested for breaking into homes and rubbing women's feet while they sleep.
As soon as they woke up, they would, obviously challenge him, and he would run away.
I just don't like feet in general. I don't get it.
The way they described the guy running away, I thought of that the greasy guy in Family Guy when he runs away.
He's like tombs. He goes into the vents.
That would definitely motivate you to increase your home security, don't you think?
I would think, but how was he getting in? Was he like busting through a door? Was the door unlocked? Like,
You think there was any of those girls, like, after everything was done and they were like getting back in bed and they're like, my feet do feel amazing. So relaxed.
none of these people have dogs. Do you think he like cased the houses or whatever? Like, make sure that they weren't someone else.
He
in the home?
must have known there were women in there. Right? I don't think he got any false positives. Maybe he went in some houses and he was like,
And then he's
"Oh,
rubbing the
these
feet of a dude. Yeah.
Well, we also find out that in our surveillance state, where literally everything is recorded and often posted on social media, it is difficult to hide.
Italian fugitive Vincenzo La Porta caught in Greece thanks to football photo.
These Italian mafia guys tend to retire to Greece. And especially after they get, convicted of crime, or not convicted, but accused of crimes. There's cases against them. I remember there was the other story about the guy. And they always have double lives down there. Like one guy, he was just a mild-mannered grocer in his old age. And they found him. And that was kind of the same story here. So this guy has a family in Greece who had no idea.
Wow.
And now he will just be plucked away from them. Probably a monster, though. And also, you're going to have to be careful about Uber. Now, everybody in the world will tell you, if you're out at the club and you've been doing some drinking, always call the Uber. Don't get in your car, right? But worry about risks for that as well.
Uber driver stabbed couple over vomiting in her car, a lawsuit says. Drunk people, they caught an Uber and there was vomiting and then this happened.
I don't know if it explicitly said they were drunk, but you definitely would
I
assume
would
that,
assume,
right?
yeah.
I feel like we're only hearing one side of the story. Although, the person who just starts stabbing.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
The solution to and source of life's problems.
But they said they said they apologized and they promised to pay for it. And they were like completely, just don't worry, this is going to be fine. And it didn't matter. She still just started stabbing.
I may have taken an Uber once where we weren't the vomiting party, but we got into one that had recently been vomited in.
Oh.
And the driver was like, I'm so sorry, I've cleaned it, but like there's a wet spot back there, don't sit there. And it was like, oh, the dark side of a night out.
Maybe it was just, that was the vomit that broke the camel's back. Like
Maybe it'd been like the fourth time.
Yeah. And you got to wonder what Google is doing to screen its employees when something like this happens.
Google Street View car leads Indiana police on 100-mile-per-hour chase, crashes into creek. The driver said, I was afraid to stop. That made me think of Amazon. It's like the Amazon drivers are like, no, I have to deliver the package. He's like, remember, it's like, I have to deliver the package through the police barricade, stuff like that.
Are you even getting good footage on the Street View car if you're going 100 miles per hour?
There's got to be a speed at which it's most efficient, right?
Probably like 30 miles an hour.
But this person was already doing 100 miles an hour before the cops saw them. So why? Why were they doing it? And they said they were weaving into oncoming traffic to pass cars.
Probably just reckless.
Yeah. And here's a terrifying statistic. I always wonder about these banking statistics, but we're in trouble if this is the case.
36% of Americans have more debt than emergency savings. How to save money and pay off loans simultaneously. Actually, I'm surprised it's only 36%.
Yeah, I think this feels a little low.
36% of Americans have more. Doesn't that imply that 70% have more emergency savings than debt, which is good?
I wonder, they're probably not including mortgage and car loan, right?
Probably not.
I wonder if they're even including, like, do you even count student loan debt? Is that, or is it just a shopping debt?
I don't know if they gave those details. I tried to read and see if they were talking about if this was self-reporting, but I think they were looking at actual credit card data. Oh, yeah. Oh, so it's all based on credit card data.
Yeah.
This is only your savings versus your credit card debt.
Yeah.
So these people probably also have mortgages and car loans.
Yeah. Credit cards are just the 30% plus interest rate is insane.
And this is the unintended consequence of stupid governments that they just aren't paying attention. They put out a program and then they forget about it.
Trees planted by the city in East Portland 2 years ago are dead because the city didn't water them. Quote unquote, we simply are not set up nor have the skills for tree maintenance beyond.
Why would you not select cultivars that do well in your area?
They hired a third-party company.
Yeah.
And that came with a 1-year contract. And so after the 1-year contract, they didn't water the trees anymore, obviously.
Japanese maples, Douglas firs, they're all beautiful trees, but like...
But how much skill do you need?
To water a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying though, like if you planted something maybe that was native and you watered it for the first year, like after that, your normal rainfall should cover it. And you shouldn't need to do a ton of extra watering if you get a cultivar of a tree that is native to your area.
Isn't Portland one of the highest rainfall places in America?
I mean, they've had the heat dome the last couple of years.
How did they mess this up?
They picked
It's
trees
almost
that
like they
are...
tried.
They probably picked trees that weren't suited for that area.
And this one I threw in because we're seeing an explosion of awareness these days for these bacterial infections. It seems like this is really picking up.
Yeah. UK man bitten by cat contracts previously unknown and extensive bacterial infection. That's what happened to Mom.
As yet undiscovered.
It was like 6 or 8 months ago. She got a crazy bad infection from her cat.
Oh.
So this guy, think about the state of our healthcare. He got bit by the cat. It started to get infected. He went to the doctor and they were like, yeah, just take these antibiotics. And he went home and got on the antibiotics. And then the next day it spread to 2 more of his fingers. And they had to cut all that flesh off.
Ooh.
And then use intravenous antibiotics.
I mean, that's fair enough. Like, I would expect, okay, here's some antibiotics. And then if it gets worse, then you go on the higher stuff. That's how it's supposed to work, right?
Little cricket gives you a bacterial infection. You're gonna keep him?
Yeah, because I love him. He's
Probably-
mean.
Probably
Look
would
what he
too.
did to me. Look what I tried to pick him up last night, and he. Now.
Yeah, the animal control people are very serious about animal bites because it was like, oh, we have to report that, and it's just like, do you? Though?
They got dirty mouths.
They do.
And if you are just happen to be sitting on a stockpile of dead butterflies or moths, if you just got some in the basement, well, good news.
tucked
There's
away.
finally something you can do with them.
The U.S. Geological Survey wants dead butterflies and moths from central Kansas.
A couple other states were mentioned in this article as well, but they're looking to figure out what's killing off all our pollinators. So if you live in that area, send them some dead bugs.
My favorite thing about this is they're like outlining how to send them in correctly.
Yeah.
And one of the lines is, it needs to be dead, obviously. And it's like, well, if it wasn't when they put it in the bag,
It would be dead by the time it got to them. Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get
But
butterflies.
at that point, it's dying probably from lack of oxygen and not from a natural cause, which upsets their data.
And we have not a good boy. I mean, he didn't know what he was doing, but he was not being a good boy.
A dog hit the pedal on a golf cart and ran over a 4-year-old who was uninjured. 4-year-olds are pretty resilient, I guess.
This dog has like Rue energy.
It's also got like a gray beard going on.
Rue's starting to get that.
Oh, it's
She's getting
adorable.
old.
Yeah, they said the 4-year-old was back, like running around and playing 30 seconds afterwards because they're just so resilient.
If it just barely hit it, it might have just tapped the kid too.
How about this? More than 6,500 children each year are injured by golf carts.
Interesting. Well, golf carts don't sound intimidating.
That's a first world problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's an obvious pun to be played here, but we probably can't get away with
No.
it.
Can controlling peacock breeding save this Florida town?
You think that'll get
Headline.
demonetized?
Yeah.
Wow.
Residents of Pinecrest don't want to kill the colorful birds, but they do want to keep their growing population in check.
I guess they're in basically the same family as the goose and the duck, which means that they are constantly spraying waste everywhere that they go.
They're also noisy. If
And
you've ever been around a
ill-tempered.
peacock, yeah.
They are lovely, but apparently not the best to live with. So they've brought in, they're trying to figure out the best way to capture them so they can perform these surgeries.
There's a few wandering around on my road, but only like 2 or 3.
This was worse than the tick.
Yeah, this is great. My favorite thing about this is that the doctors, the ER doctors, suspected her of like drug-seeking behavior.
Yeah.
Because they thought that you have to be high to come up with this kind of story.
Texas woman mowing the lawn attacked by a snake and a hawk at the same time.
Oh.
A snake dropped from the grasp of a hawk in the sky, wrapped itself around the woman's arm, and then the bird tried to retrieve the snake that it dropped.
She describes the snake like wrapped around her arm, striking at her glasses.
Oh.
And she said there was a fluid, which they did not identify the snake because it happened so quickly. But she thinks it was venomous, and because her glasses stopped it, it didn't get to tag her. But then the hawk eventually managed to regain his meal
Oh, good.
and took it back into the sky. So they had no evidence that this happened other than her damage. But
That's
it could have been an
crazy.
elaborate hoax.
We'll do a follow-up if it is.
Hawks do actually do that though. They will fly way up in the air with live prey and drop them to make them easier to kill them, to be easier to eat.
They usually do that. They drop them on rocks. Why do you think
Maybe
a
the
lawnmower?
maybe the snake was struggling and the hawk lost its grip. It has to grip it by the husk.
What a roller coaster for that snake, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I've made it. I'm free.
I'm free, but I'm falling. Oh, I've fallen on something soft. Oh, but the thing is alive.
Yeah.
And then,
Freaking out. Yeah.
Now I'm captured again.
Fun times.
And I guess this is a good thing because where there were no beavers, there are now once again beavers.
First beavers born in Sussex in 500 years.
This is part of a wildlife program. Well, I thought this was kind of a nice companion piece to the story we did a few weeks ago about the person who just throws beavers in rivers and stuff. This was
This
the
is
actual
a
program.
more professional
Yeah.
beaver breeding program.
They found him just hanging out.
But it turns out that a lot of places, I guess, in the UK, they build the dam and it turns into kind of an ecological sanctuary for a lot of other things. So it turns out that might have been good. 100 years ago, it was like, oh, those are a pest species. We should
Let's just kill
eliminate
them
them.
all, or they needed their
Or the pelts.
their pelts or other parts of them.
You
Well,
know who else we need the pelt of? But
yeah,
we're not
if you
going to
want if you want a lot of pelt, here's one. But the naming convention here turned out to be a tragic mistake, and we've heard about this gentleman, quote unquote, in past years. But it turns out there's been a lot of identity crisis with this bear.
Hank the Tank, the bear behind 21 home invasions, has been captured near Lake Tahoe.
Look at him.
Hank the Tank is in fact a she, Hankina, and normally they would euthanize this bear, but she's a mother and she has a lot of cubs, and they're going to try to relocate her to Colorado so that they don't euthanize her. So it's kind of a happy ending.
Is she a black bear? Because that is a big bear.
Well, yeah, black bear, but unusually giant
Rotund, yeah.
black bear. And also, they say that some of the break-ins probably wasn't just this bear. It was one of those
Learned
Shakespeare
behavior things.
type situations where they were blaming it all on one bear. This bear was also living under somebody's house. Think about that.
That's like the biggest black bear I've ever seen.
Going to be relocated now. And this was just sad. I don't understand why people feel the need to have exotic pets when they clearly don't know how to handle them.
Landscapers in Pennsylvania find a malnourished alligator named Fluffy in a creek.
Now look at this picture. Look at the scale of those hands back there, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be a baby, right? No, it's 10 years old, and it's so malnourished, it's stunted.
It's supposed to be 6 feet long. And also, you see its teeth?
There are none, hardly.
Its teeth are all messed up and they're pointing backwards into its mouth. So someone has just terribly, terribly treated this alligator. They gave it back.
Really?
They said
Did
they're
that
gonna-
person have don't you have to have an exotic pet license for some of these kind of things?
They've got a 75-gallon aquarium, which that's not that much, right?
Not if you expect
for
it
a
to get
gator?
bigger. Yeah.
Can it swim more than 2 seconds in any direction? That ain't right. Even for a
How did-
reptile, no nervous system reaction. So.
How is it surviving out there? Pennsylvania's not
Yeah, well,
gator country.
they had it in the tank, but then there was a flood, I guess. and
Oh.
the
Yeah.
flood-
So I'm free.
Oh, life here is hard. I want to go back.
I'm free, but it's cold.
No.
And perhaps some of the reasons for this is revenge for that kind of thing. And let's face it, we deserve it.
Crocodiles are alarmingly tuned to the cries of human infants. They actually did a kind of a scientific study here where a bunch of different recordings of human children crying for different reasons were there, and the children in the most distress, or children that thought they were in the most distress, or situations that are likely to be the most stressful, attracted the crocodiles the most.
But not just human children, all kinds of primate children.
Yeah.
So it turns out crocs may have some deep evolutionary memory of that's an easy snack. That noise right there. That's like the ice cream truck.
For gators.
All world. It could also be that just the crying baby is one of the most obnoxious sounds in the universe.
I wonder if there'll be some future scientific study like this for private equity investors and companies like Sears.
The blood in the water.
Have you ever played a kitten sound for your cats? I did that last night, and Cricket lost his little mind trying to find the kitten.
I watch a lot of cat videos on YouTube. They don't always react, but sometimes they do react. What they'll do is they'll go over to the speaker and look behind it.
Yeah, they're looking for the cat. Cricket ran to the window and was like, "Oh, there's a cat outside." And it's like, no, nobody.
When was the last time Cricket saw another cat?
Not that long because there's stray cats all over the place.
Oh, that's right, on your property. But it doesn't get to interact.
No. He's very happy to just beg for food inside, while all the other cats outside are getting eaten by coyotes.
He needs a friend cat.
He's got Rudolph,
Rudolph's like proper substitute.
but he likes to bother Rue. He goes over and swats her in the face. It's a good companion. Anyway, that's it for this week.
That's it.
That's it. We will see you guys.
It's a quick week because it's summer and everybody wants to be outside doing other things.
We will see you guys next week.
Not
though.
getting by a tick, hopefully.
Bye.